Hey, everybody. What's happening? Robert Phoenix here, just after 9 a.m. Central Standard Time in Fredericksburg, Texas. Happy Monday. How was everyone today? We got two people now arriving in the chat room or in the broadcast, so there's three. Monday morning coffee. Mondays are always kind of interesting because, I do the live stream on Sunday night. And last night we were in it for 2 hours, and it was definitely a jam, a channel, a channeling jam, kind of nonstop. So after I do one of those, I'm just gassed, man. I'm exhausted. A lot of times it almost feels like doing a webinar when I do those 2-hour shows, but it's cool. It's fun. I dig it, and they're they're getting more popular. We had 100 people pretty consistently over in the chat area last night. And there's a lot of good information. Even if you're not into astrology, there's some good information. There's stuff on Maduro and Venezuela and the U.S. And of course, I get into Ruth Bader Ginsburg's chart and how I think she's either completely on ice or she's gone. And you can see some of that over on my other channel, because that's what takes place over there. And that's where the Friday Farcast happens. And hopefully Monday through Thursday, this is where this happens. And you get to get caught up on the news of the day and some other perspectives along the way as well. So how is everyone? How's your Monday going on this Scorpio Moon Monday? I felt the power of the Scorpio Moon this morning because I didn't want to get out of bed. It's like the claws of the scorpion had pinned me to my bed. It's like, but I have too much to do. I can't see you in chat, which is a bummer. And so now I'm wondering if I even have chat again. Let me just look at this. Participants. Let me see what we got here. Do I have any participants? No, I've completely lost my chat again. So that said, let me just go over into YouTube and see if I can see you guys in chat realm or chat mode. Chatmandu. Let's see what we got going here. Yes, live now. Of course, let's look at it. My current live stream. Absolutely. Here we go. Let's see if I can see the chat in here. No, I can't see the chat. Can't see the chat in the live stream, and I can't see the chat in the mirror of the live stream. So I'm going to assume that you guys can handle it and take care of business where business needs to be taken care of. All right, so let's jump into some of this. There's some interesting things happening. We all know that Roger Stone got popped by Bob Mueller, and apparently Stone is taking a bit of a different course. Stone theoretically is the paragon of loyalty. And he had an exchange with George Stephanopoulos. Stephanopoulos asked him, will you cooperate with Special Counselor Mueller if he asks? And Stone says, that's a question I'll have to determine after my attorneys have some discussion. I would certainly testify honestly. Now, does that mean he's going to flip and he's going to give up the goods. It's going to be interesting because what's going to take place now is really the central theme of this quote unquote investigation now seems to have come down to WikiLeaks and Julian Assange. And if indeed the servers who delivered up the info, the dirt, the intel on just about everything, which caused huge amount of havoc inside the Democratic National Committee and also in Hillary Clinton's campaign, they're going to have to figure out what really went on there, and there's going to have to be some level of discovery. And will the discovery go public? And where is Seth Rich's name floating around in all of this? That remains to be seen. I don't think Seth Rich is dead. I may think Ruth Bader Ginsburg is dead, but I think Seth Rich has been relocated. I think Seth Rich was a Mossad plant that he worked for the likes of Netanyahu. And I think that he was inserted into the DNC to do exactly what he did. I think there was a fake attempt or hit on his life, and that he's been essentially reassigned. Now, why do I say this? Because I don't think it's the Russians that screwed with the election. I think it was the Israelis. And I think that they have been involved in espionage and information trafficking for quite a long time. And they're quite good at it since they basically run the NSA. All the NSA's spying apparatuses are run on the spine of a couple of different Israeli companies whom I've detailed before in the past. So everything that's going through the NSA is also going through essentially Israeli packet points. Perhaps not their servers, but packet points, and they can siphon off just about anything they want to or need, whether it's a keyword or key conversation. So my sense is that there was a vested interest on the part of Netanyahu, Jared Kushner, Shabbat Lubavitch, and the Israelis in general because of what Trump could and would do for them. Of course, Trump was on the hook to Sheldon Adelson for a huge amount of money. And Sheldon Adelson was one of the biggest cheerleaders to have the embassy moved from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, which has been accomplished. And, you know, if Hillary Clinton got elected, I'm not sure that embassy gets moved, to be quite honest with you. I think Hillary Clinton answers to different gods. Maybe she answers to a god that pays her the most money, and of course she might come to a different decision as a result of that. But it's clear that there was a working alliance in place with Trump's people. If you look at the donors on the Trump side of things, the Mercers, the Adelsons, they all have very, very deep ties to Israel. And they were very clear about, I think, what they wanted from Donald Trump. And they got it. They got it. And they're getting probably more from Donald Trump as it unfolds. So I don't think it's the Russians that are part and parcel of this collusion process. It's a whole other group, but it's easier, I think, and probably more politically expedient to blame the Russians as a result of, well, let's just say some deep cover that's going on. And in fact, I actually think that the Russians are probably more deeply embedded with the DNC. I mean, it's clear, right, that Hillary Clinton and Putin did a deal on Uranium One. We know that. That happened. It's part of the public record. What else has Putin and the Russians done with the Democratic Party or people inside the Democratic Party? Probably quite a bit. Now, that's not to say that there are these factions that are hermetically sealed, because they're not always hermetically sealed. Sometimes they do business with one another, and sometimes they put a knife in one another's back. It's kind of like that cartoon from Mad Magazine, Spy versus Spy. It's kind of how the game works. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with Roger Stone and how close to the bone they get with the DNC and the servers and Seth Rich. And somewhere lurking out there is Imran Awan, who has gotten off scot-free apparently, and so has Debbie Wasserman Schultz. It's it's on to the next thing. So that's just one order of business now that's in play. And yep, Stone is in a very interesting place. I think they could make life pretty difficult for him because he's got some skeletons in his closet. But the other thing with Roger Stone is he knows where the skeletons are buried as well. That is pretty clear. We still haven't had the flashpoint moment in Venezuela, but I think that that's coming this week. I think we're going to see some hot military action start to take place. I talked about that last night on the live stream. On the case of the Covington kids, this is a pretty interesting piece here. This is from Big League Politics. I'm going to read this. We've been living in an environment where people can say just about anything they want without any real consequences. Well, that might be changing here because the Sandman family has hired a lawyer by the name of L. Lynn Wood. Sounds like one of the Blues Brothers. Elwood. Anyway, so he's beginning the investigation of Bill Maher. Why is he beginning an investigation of Bill Maher? I'm going to read this to you. Bill Maher's statements about Nick Sandman are now under review, according to Atlanta libel lawyer L. Lynn Wood, advocate for the Covington Catholic students smeared by the media for their videotaped encounter with left-wing activists near the Lincoln Memorial at the March for Life. As made clear in our joint statement, lawyers in my firm will carefully review all false accusations and threats made against Nick. We are well aware of the obscenities uttered by Bill Maher and broadcast on HBO. So this is what Maher said. He went on a vile rant against the teenager. I don't blame the kid, the smirk-faced kid. I blame lead poisoning and bad parenting. Oh, yeah. I blame the fucking kid, Maher stated. What a little prick, smirk face. The smirking kid says he's just trying to diffuse the situation. Really? Next time you get into a fight, try that, Maher stated, indicating a threat. So there's a whole group of people that are on the list for this Covington lawyer. Apparently, they include Kathy Griffin, USA Today, Andrea Mitchell, Washington Post, Maggie Haberman, Esquire, S.E. Cupp, and Tom Watson. So they're trying to make sure that the kids are not unduly slandered and libelized. So he also said something about the Catholic Church and why would the Catholic Church want to put their weenies in these little pricks or something along those lines. So that's another feather in Bill Maher's cap as it relates to this whole incident, which is still lingering to some extent, but it'll pass. There's no resolution now. I mean, this is what's wrong. I mean, nothing gets resolved. There's no closure, and this is one of the big challenges and issues that we have. It's like the Mueller investigation. There's no closure. It just keeps going on and on and on. I mean, at some point in time, when there's another president, I'm sure that the investigation will cease. But there's no closure. There's no closure around this. There's no closure around anything. One could even go back to what's been happening with Hillary Clinton since she was let go, in some regards, out of the office of Secretary of State. I think she left on her own accord. but I'm sure it was getting quite hot. There's no closure there. There's never any closure. None. And I think this is adding to the pressure. I mean, same thing if you're on the left, the same thing could be said about Trump. I mean, the people on the left, I'm sure, are pulling their hair out. What more do they need? What more do they need? How much more do they need? How much more evidence do they need? So the reason why there's no closure is because it adds to the pressure, and it just keeps turning the pressure up so that people become more and more uncomfortable, more and more anxious, more and more resentful, more and more angry, more and more fearful. And it is a trick of the devil. So closure is quite important. And it's an important component in our own lives, because when there is closure, it represents that we can close a chapter and move on. But there has been no moving on. It's like what happened with the Saints in the playoff game. You've got a bunch of players running around now who, one of them was at the Pro Bowl yesterday with a T-shirt, basically making fun of the decision or the non-decision or the non-call. We had a ref from that game refereeing a college basketball game, and there were people with signs at the game that were haranguing him and harassing him. But the reason why is because there's no closure there. Roger Goodell has not uttered a statement to the press. He's going to have to this week. He may evade it. He may say, I think we've dealt with that. Next question. And it goes on, and there's no sense of closure and / justice, because that's what people ultimately, on the big picture level, that's what they're waiting for, and that's what they're looking for. They're looking for some form of justice, and it has not happened, and probably will not happen, because it's just going to continue to build up this pressurized environment, and then people just become more and more agitated. It creates more division, and that's how the game is played. So will something come out of this with Nick Sandmann and his lawyer? And, will he be able to shut down Bill Maher? Would he be able to get a monetary settlement from Bill Maher? I doubt it, because that's the way these things are right now. Anytime there's a chance for somebody to actually be indicted and or judged summarily for their malfeasance or their crimes, then it might be worth noting. But it hasn't happened, and I'm not putting any kind of weight. I'm not going to buy into it. And so we have to, again, adjust our lives and find, value and justice and valor and merit and meaning and even character in our own lives, because I think that's where it's at ultimately. And that's an ongoing process. Speaking of character, man, I heard this thing with Alex Jones, and God, it was very intense. There was a guy, I guess Alex has really come out swinging against these late-term abortion laws, with good reason. He came out swinging, and some guy called into the show, and apparently Alex has been involved in, this is public record. I'm not going anywhere that I'm going to get in trouble, but apparently he's been involved in 10 abortions. And this guy called him on it, and he had the answer to it. It was very, very intense, and you could tell that Alex Jones had actually gone through something, that he was, dealing with it in his own way. I think Alex Jones is tortured. I think he's a tortured individual, tortured human. And I think Alex has gone to the dark side a few times and has done everything in his power to try to resurrect himself and, come back into the so-called light and do the right thing. So it was just very intense. It was an intense exchange. And especially with Jones having to admitting with, I think, a sense of humility in a lot of ways. People make mistakes. Now, making mistakes 10 times, that's a whole other issue. But people do make mistakes, and I think people do have the opportunity to have some form of atonement and be forgiven for what they've done. If it's clear that they've gone through a process of atonement, maybe he has. I don't know. I'm not sitting inside his body. I don't rank his heart. What else is out there? Well, Trump has decided that maybe now is the time to go after Hillary because his buddy, Roger Stone, is in the crosshairs of Bob Mueller. So I'm going to read you a little snippet here from Sputnik. This gets back to the original story, what I talked about at the beginning here. So this is from today. And it says Donald Trump says he suffered from one-sided media coverage during the 2016 presidential campaign. Back then, all eyes were on the dossier compiled by a retired MI6 spy who alleged that Trump had colluded with Moscow in a bid to win the election. The president called the document phony and has accused his political adversaries for paying for it, which they did. U.S. President Donald Trump has once again accused the U.S. mainstream media of bias reporting and questioned why Hillary Clinton hadn't been indicted after his longtime ally, Roger Stone, was arrested as part of the Russia probe. Now, Trump has been silent about Hillary Clinton for the last 2 years, and now he's finally starting to talk about this. Trump's former informal political advisor, Roger Stone, was indicted on Friday on charges of witness tampering, obstruction of justice, and lying to Congress. The charges were brought by Special Counsel Mueller, who alleges that Stone saw potentially damaging information about Hillary Clinton from WikiLeaks in coordination with the Trump campaign. But isn't this how campaigns are run? I mean, I don't understand this. I mean, aren't both sides trying to find potentially damaging information? I don't get it. This is big league politics, man. This is gang warfare. This is hand-to-hand combat in the trenches. This is Sun Tzu, the art of war. It's all of it. Don't you want damaging information? I mean, come on now. This is not about the merits of your own arguments or your positions. It's about how you can slander or defame another person so that they become, in the eyes of the public, incapable of being in public service. CBS reports that in the Roger Stone indictment, data was released during the 2016 election that damaged Hillary Clinton. Oh, really? What about the fake and unverified dossier, a total phony con job that was paid for by crooked Hillary to damage me and the Trump campaign? That's true. He was referring to the so-called Trump-Russia dossier private intelligence report compiled by former British spy Christopher Steele, which alleged conspiracy between Donald Trump's presidential campaign and the Russian government. So this is very interesting because they're trying to control the narrative. The Democrats are trying to control the narrative. That was Trump colluded with the Russians in order to win the election and beat Hillary Clinton. When in actuality, it was the Democrats who had provided a fake dossier to get the FISA agreements so that they could begin spying on Trump and Trump Tower and his son and everybody associated with the family. Reality's a trip, right? Moscow has refuted accusations of efforts to undermine U.S. democracy as unfounded. Well, Moscow's been undermining U.S. democracy for decades. Let's be clear about that. It hasn't just started overnight. It also emerged later that the U.S.-based research group Fusion GPS, who hired Steele, had received $1 million from an organization linked with George Soros, who is known to be a major Democratic donor and a staunch critic of Trump. Republicans and Trump himself have claimed that the dossier was paid for by Hillary Clinton and the DNC and became the impetus that prompted the FBI to launch a probe into the alleged Trump-Russia ties. So the problem with all this is that it's a huge distraction. It's a massive distraction because along the way, they just keep getting closer and closer to Agenda 21, Agenda 2030, and laying down the 5G. In the meantime, we're trying to untangle who did what, who said what, who screwed who over, where the money went, who's clean, who's not clean. They're all dirty. They're all freaking dirty. Politics is a dirty dance, and you don't get involved unless you got mud on your shoes for a lot of different reasons. So let's just cut to the chase around that, shall we? Let's see. It is 9:43 here in sunny Fredericksburg, Texas. Boy, I wish I had that room. I miss you guys, man. I miss you over there because I can't see you. Got a new subscriber. It's Jasmine Harrison. Hey, Jasmine. Welcome to the Monday morning party here on 15 Minutes of Flame. Let's see. Trolls on the chat again. Okay, well, I can't do anything about it. Thanks, Bev, because I can't get into the chat. So there we go. Let me see what we got here. Here, I found it. Okay, I found the chat. What do we got? Let me see. The owl behind you is talking to me. Okay, what do we got? Good. Let's see. Pantsuit 2020. Backwoods Jimmy. Let's see. There isn't diversity in elections. There aren't enough parties. Daniel, I would agree with you. They'll make you look stupid. They use it as a control grid. What else do we have in Chatlandia? I found the chat. Here we go. The United States barely provides health care coverage to citizens. Average citizens need to participate in elections. Citizens need to move away from Democrats and Republicans. I couldn't agree more, Daniel. Chris Tanner says fraud. Let's see what we have here. Roger Stone molested me as a boy. Well, share more with us, Nate. The trolls are back. Let's see. Who else is in here? Are you an unbearable filthy socks? Okay. Let's see what we got here. You're gone. See ya. Are you an unbearable? Am I an unbearable? Let's see. There you go. There you go. Who else we have here? I'm having, excuse me, sir. Do you have time to talk about our Lord and Savior, the Dusty Bogan? I don't. I don't. And neither do you. See ya. Okay, so this is like swatting flies. We live in a society. What kind of a society do we live in? Let's see. All right, who else? It's about time someone lawyered up. I detest Bill Maher. Absolutely. I agree. Maher wears red shoes. Say no more. Who else we got here? Ignore the trolls. Let's see. Who did Building 7? Who pulled Building 7? You're no Joe V. Val. Oh, really? Backwoods Jimmy. Oh, well. Let's see. You ever heard of Notorious Moon Man? I'm no Joe V. Val. Huh? Well, guess what? You're no Steve and Chris Crimmy. How's that? Danny Saint, the Notorious Moon Man. Let's see. See you, Danny. You're in timeout. Flypaper works too. I don't ban people in my chat. It's interesting to different opinions. I don't mind if people have different opinions. I don't have a problem with different opinions. It's fine. But I also, yeah, you have chat. I do. It's true. What do I think of the recent attacks on the USS Liberty? Is the earth flat? You're no monsters in the morning. No, I'm not. I'm not a monsters in the morning. No. I'm not. But I can be a monster in the afternoon, and I can certainly be a monster at night. My friend Mitch from Minnesota is listening, but he can't type because he's bedridden with terminal disease. Can he get a shout out? Hello, Mitch in Minnesota. Shout out. It's nighttime in China right now. Is the earth flat? I'm not an expert in flat earth. I think there are other channels for that. Philly pickles. The earth is not flat if you live in the mountains. There's a cogent answer, an intelligent, cogent answer. Right on. What happens if you live underwater? Is the earth flat? That's another whole dilemma, isn't it? What do I think of the Eric Nimmer situation? Oh, the Eric Nimmer situation. Yeah. I'm absolutely appalled by the Eric Nimmer situation. Let's see, Gillette averages beginning. That's just for the young boys of this new dystopia. Yes, I agree. What do I think about the Gillette commercial? I've been on the record about the Gillette commercial. I think it's ridiculous. I think it's interesting that the Gillette commercial and the Gilets Jaunes was happening simultaneously. Also, if you look into King Gillette, he's a 33rd degree Mason, and he wrote 3 books around one giant corporation on the entire planet. He has some very interesting ideas about social engineering. So you hate Hagers and Nimmers? No, Nate. No, Nate, I don't. Love you guys. Love everywhere. Love, 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 love. All right, I'm out of here. So I'll be back tomorrow, and we'll fire this thing back up again, and I'll get to play with my new friends in the chat room, and we'll do this little dance and do our show at some point in time. We'll. Oh, it says, do I find it weird that a certain community controls the entire media? No. Right now, I control the entire media, and I'm controlling my community. How you like that? All right. Use your head to discern what's real, your heart to stay open as possible. I'm Robert Phoenix. Thanks for showing up today. I appreciate it. I'll be back tomorrow with more hard-hitting insights and playful rejoinders for my new friends. Have a good day.